I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Board of Directors of the School District for the City of Allentown for today, April 7th, 2022. Prior to tonight's meeting, an executive session was held to discuss confidential and legal matters. The board welcomes and invites public comment. You may address the board on agenda or non-agenda items. And the first opportunity is for comments at the beginning of the meeting is limited to agenda items only. If you choose to address the board, please fill out a comment card and hand it to Deputy Superintendent Ramos. Comment cards are located at the podium, and once recognized, please come to the podium, state your name and city of residence for the record, and kindly limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Mr. Secretary, can we please call the roll?
Ms. Brown?
Yes, present, sorry.
Ms. Conover?
Present.
Ms. Harris? Ms. Matheson?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Ms. Ortiz?
Here.
Mr. Palmer?
Present.
Mr. Thiel? Will?
Here.
7 board members present.
Thank you. If you could all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to begin this meeting by stating, even though Teacher Appreciation Week is not until next month, on behalf of my colleagues and myself, we want to thank our teachers for their commitment to our students, their creativity and innovation, especially during the past 2 years of educating in a pandemic. The struggles created by inequitable funding existed long before COVID shut our doors in 2020. They were exacerbated as we had to pivot to provide online learning for 17,000 students. And I've said it before, our teachers and their support staff went to work building lesson plans and finding ways to keep connections to their students. The fiscal reality of the Allentown School District also presents challenges to pay equity for our teachers with surrounding school districts. This board believes our educators deserve a compensation that acknowledges and rewards them for the work they do to educate the next generation of leaders. All individuals who positively impact the lives of young people deserve to be celebrated. I want to thank you all for your patience and continual dedication to your students during the time it took to come to this evening's agreement. As I said yesterday, the board recognizes the dedication and hard work of our teachers, who are the backbone of our district. You have remained steadfast in your commitment to give our students the best opportunities to succeed now and in the future. Thank you. Dr. Stanford?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to ask Solicitor Satanic to share some comments on during my remarks.
The school board this evening will be called upon to vote on a recommendation prepared by John M. Sconier, the appointed fact finder in the fact finding that the Pennsylvania Labor Relations Board ordered that both the school district and the Teachers Association participate in. And he was appointed on February 14th, 2022. And we had a very comprehensive and lengthy Zoom hearing before the fact finder, where thousands of pages of testimony was shared with the fact finder about some of the unique circumstances impacting the Allentown School District. I'm going to read from the introduction of the report because I think it is very telling. It tells in large part some of the very difficult story faced by the Allentown School District. And I will also say there are no winners or losers in this process. This is a factually challenging situation impacting both the professional staff and the school board and this entire community. The fact finder stated, the parties have been at contract impasse for some time without reaching a mutually agreeable solution. The current state of contractual negotiations is unusual in that the parties have received not one, but two mediator proposals from the Pennsylvania Bureau of Mediation. The second and final mediator's proposal was issued by the director of the Bureau himself, and a proposed new item which recommended step movement in 1 year, something that the bargaining unit had not seen for some time. Despite the valiant efforts of the Bureau, the recommendations were not accepted by the union, and we're now at the point where the Pennsylvania Labor Relations Board has legally compelled fact-finding. Aside from the financial ramifications of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and the hammering of state budgets, which has left no school district unharmed, Allentown is facing another countervailing and potentially catastrophic to the educational mission of the district. Its salary schedule has become very uncompetitive. This is self-evident by the multi-year vacancies of 130 professional job positions, 124 paraprofessional positions, and presently 5 school principal job positions. The district is at a disadvantage to neighboring school districts because of various aspects of the company that impact on the economic well-being of the faculty. To continue in the current direction is unacceptable, as the district's problems will only worsen. While some have pointed to the Reading School District for guidance, having been the fact finder in that district's most recent collective bargaining agreement, I must point out substantial and consequential differences. The financial wherewithal of the school districts surrounding Reading School District are substantially different from the school districts that surround Allentown School District. The wages are higher in districts around Allentown, creating a substantial competitive disadvantage. In addition, the district has a much higher debt service than that of the Reading School District. The number of charter schools which drain away needed tax dollars from the district is 2 times that of Reading School District. Currently, over 5,000 students from the district are enrolled in charter schools. The Allentown School District is required to pay $61,229,982 per year to charter schools. And charter schools receive 70% of their per pupil expenditures received by the district. This destructive financial situation must be reversed by a robust program to incentivize teachers to encourage parents and students to receive their education from the district rather than historically underperforming charter schools. To this end, a recommendation is offered, and I will speak to that before I conclude my comments. This effort also requires a district-wide understanding that the general environment of the district must be positive, encouraging, and worthwhile educationally for the students. Emphasis on such basic needs as safety and cleanliness are important, and focusing on productive programs to encourage school pride can only bear fruitful results. Again, these are observations that the undersigned feels are urgently needed. Those were the introductory comments to the fact finders report. And I think they're very telling under the circumstances. And I see nods in the heads of various board members and our superintendent. But if you look at what ultimately was our disputes that brought us to fact finding, they focused around salary and healthcare benefits. Not a surprise, since in most every employment dispute, those are the two most significant issues. And in salary, the fact finder addressed a very telling issue in our salary scales. Currently, the starting salary in the school district is for the 2020-2021 school year, $46,665 at the bachelor's step 1. So if you have a bachelor's degree, no experience, you would start at $46,665, which is candidly not competitive with what our surrounding school districts are paying their employees. As the result of this fact finding, what the fact finder did is eliminate the first 3 steps on the salary schedule. So essentially, they were wiped away. So the first 3 steps on the salary schedule at the bachelor's level ranged from $46,665 to $47,974, so that the starting salary at step 4 would automatically increase to $48,643. But what he also did is considered putting some additional money on the salary schedule to make it more competitive. So effective on the 15th pay of this year. So the first year of the contract was last year. It remained the same. So the teachers effectively got no increase last year. And they got no increase up until the 15th pay of this year. But effective with the first pay, well, effective with the 15th pay, which is right about now. The 15th pay is would be tomorrow or next week? Next week. Yeah, the 15th. The salary, the bachelor step 1 salary would increase to $49,265. So almost $50,000. Though that does not necessarily match all of our competition, it certainly brings us in certainly much more competitive advantage. And in addition, the fact finder did introduce some new steps on the salary schedule to remove what we have as what we affectionately call a bump step, that where individuals toward the maximum part of the salary schedule would receive a very large increase. We've smoothed that out. So the current range starting now is a bachelor step 1 starting salary of $49,265 to a doctoral maximum of $93,358. Now, next year, starting with the 13th pay of the school year, which is a little bit earlier, the starting salary at bachelor step 1 would increase to $52,743 over the current number. And the maximum at doctorate would be $95,208. Now, this will come at significant expense to the school district. And when the budget will be reviewed a little bit later on in today's meeting, there will be budgetary and monetary consequences to the school district in order to fund these changes. But the reality is, and in terms of my discussions with both the personnel and the finance committee, the feeling was we may not have a choice. In order to remain educationally competitive in the current marketplace, we have to consider a radical change to the compensation, because after all is said and done, notwithstanding all the valiant efforts of this school district to improve programs, you can't impact and improve student achievement without teachers. And if you can't fill your teaching positions, you can't meet your educational objectives. Now, offsetting the cost of this contract were health benefit changes. And the health benefit changes were not as admittedly as dramatic as the board originally wanted, with a high deductible healthcare plan. A new PPO plan was recommended by the fact finder, which will offset the costs of such a program monetarily to the school district. And it also introduced a spousal waiver provision that if an individual teacher has a spouse who works outside of the school district, who has available health care, that the teacher could put their spouse on the health benefit plan, but that would be a $200 per month cost to enroll their spouse in health care. And last but not least, the fact finder recommended a unique provision in the fact finder's recommendation that addresses the charter school issue that the fact finder found to be an important drain on the district's budget to the extent of $62 million per year. The fact finder indicated that in order to create a positive atmosphere about the education in this district, that the teachers in this district would be eligible for a $500 non-reoccurring bonus if the charter school enrollment in any one year in the contract would reduce by 10%. So that in sum represents the recommendation made by the fact finder, and the board today will be called upon to either approve the fact finder's report in its entirety or reject it. We have received notification from the Allentown Education Association leadership that the Allentown Education Association, in a recorded vote which took place on Monday, April 4th, voted to approve the fact finder's recommendations as presented. If this evening the school board would approve the fact finder's recommendations, we will have to notify, Mr. Hargett will have to notify the Pennsylvania Labor Relations Board of the vote. And if we approve it, we will have a binding collective bargaining agreement as if we would have negotiated it at the bargaining table. So I will say that it is the administration's recommendation, and it has been my recommendation, as well as our Finance Personnel Committee's recommendation, to approve the fact finder's report as presented. And that motion will appear shortly on our agenda in the special meeting. And with that, that concludes my comments regarding the fact finder's recommendations.
Thank you, Attorney Sultanic. At this time, Mr. Hargett, are there any public comments on agenda items? None on agenda. May I have a motion for the approval of Ms. Matheson? Is there a second? Second. Ms. Brown, any discussion on the motion?
Is the motion to approve?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm reading right off.
I
my script.
was listening. Okay.
May I have a motion for the approval of the Board of Directors report in favor to, which would approve the fact finder report? as
In
written?
case number 8222,
Do you want me to
88.
read the whole motion?
No, it's a motion to approve the fact finders report recommendation in case number 8822-1E as presented.
So moved.
So moved. Thank you. This is my first formal negotiations. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Ms. Brown seconded. Would you like second? You
A
need
second,
Okay.
yes.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion on this motion?
Madam President, can I comment?
Yes.
I'd like to thank the teachers for their hard work during the pandemic. It does not go unnoticed by the board, and appreciate the administration's hard work through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Ms. Ortiz?
I also want to thank our educators for your patience and speaking as a parent. Thank you for everything that you do for our kids. It's really, I appreciate everything you do. We value you. So thank you.
Ms. Brown?
Sorry, yeah, okay. So again, yes, I would like to thank our teachers. Something that I've always said is that I believe our teachers should never pay to be able to teach. So I'm happy that we have come to some kind of conclusion, but I thank you for your patience and I look forward, to continuing to do this work together. So thank you all.
Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Matheson,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Wilt,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Conover.
Yes.
7-0 passes.
The collective bargaining agreement.
At this time, we're taking public comment on non-agenda items.
Sure, the first person is Mark Leibold.
Liable to AEA President, 2101 Mac Boulevard. That's where my office is. I live in Merchtown, Pennsylvania. I just wanted to touch on one thing that Jeff said, that about the change in steps and the breaking up of the bump will really help us in further negotiations. We have an incremental cost. When I talk to people about what our incremental costs used to be, was 2.4, 2.5% of any monies given to teachers would go into the increment. It really harmed you. It harmed us. It's a really big piece.
Do you want to explain what the increment is? I don't know that everybody understands that.
So incremental cost is the district says, listen, I think you deserve a 3% raise. And we say, that's lovely. But to move everybody through 15 steps and across columns, there's an associated cost per box. And then, so if it costs 2.5%, the people move up their step, and then there's 5% left for Keith at the top. So the lower we can get that number, the better off we are. Jeff, my time's ticking. Anyway, good evening. I stand before you tonight to express gratitude for the board's acceptance of the fact-finding report. This has been an arduous and exhausting process. Multiple superintendents, different board members, and lest we forget the continual complications caused by the pandemic. Our AEA table team has been the same group since 2018. We negotiated a one-year extension, took off a month, and then went back to negotiating this one. So it's been a long haul for those folks. I express my gratitude to them. This agreement will go a long way in initiating a process of healing. If we are to flourish as a district, this healing must occur, must continue to occur. If we are to arrest any further movement of our resources to the charters, we must get our house in order. Well, listen, I don't want to wish any ill will to the charters either, but there's something very deeply wrong with the way they are funded. And it is a problem. Anyway, this agreement is an integral part of accomplishing that goal of getting our house in order. So I just want to take this time to thank you all, and thank you for your time.
Next person is Barbara Redmond.
Please make sure to state your name and city of address for the record, and then you have 3 minutes.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Barbara Redmond. I reside at 1701 Sequoia Court in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I'm here on behalf of the Allentown NAACP in reference to a form that we've been trying to retrieve. It's the public complaint form. And we're wondering why it's a state complaint form. And we went through the channels to try to retrieve that form, and we haven't. And it makes us suspicious of why we can't receive it. Other people are able to get the form, but we're not able to get it. All we're asking for the complaint form, and we would like to know where we can get it and how we can receive it. And that's our main concern. Like I said, we've been I have called several offices in the Allentown School District since January, and now it's April, and I still haven't received any concrete information about the form. One of our parents, members, is asking for the form, and we're trying our best to get the form. So if you can please contact me to let me know. I'm the secretary of the Allentown NAACP, and we would like to know how we can retrieve that form. It's a public complaint form. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lastly, Maurice Muhammad.
How you doing? Thank you. My name is Maurice Muhammad. My address is 1254 South Jefferson Street, Allentown, Pennsylvania. The purpose that I'm addressing thank you for the opportunity to come before you this evening. And it is, the purpose of it is to make, I was told that an incident that happened a few years ago when my granddaughter was assaulted at one of the local public schools. I was met with a lot of resistance when I attempted to file a complaint with the prosecutor's office. I was told that it needed to be brought up in a public policy form, in the policy procedure, because it was a policy issue that the school had to address. The resistance that I was met with, the incident has not even yet to be investigated. So my intent is to bring it before the board, because from what I understand, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. This is a matter of record. Once it's put on document, it's to be a matter of record. So my intent is to make sure that it's been documented. It's been since 2018. She was 8 years old when the incident happened. We're still dealing with the trauma of the event. But it just seems that the school board and no one here has seen that it's a matter of importance. So the intent is to keep bringing it up and to take whatever steps is necessary to get a resolution, whatever that resolution is. And that is what my intent is, to come out of it with a resolution. She and the whole family has been in counseling. As a result of it, the trauma that has happened will continue to do that. So that is what my intent is, and to continue to, I haven't heard anything from anyone. I completed the complaint form with the school board. Every time I come, it seems like I'm speaking to someone new about the same thing. Every time it's asking me, well, what am I here for? So that type of stone wall and installing, it really makes me seem like it's, tactics of, I don't know what to call it, but it's just nothing's being done. It's happening. The process is happening. All of that's documented. I have all the documents. I have all the emails, all the accounts of communication that have went unanswered. So I'm just making a matter of record again, yet again at the policy procedure. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much. Is there any old business to become before the board? Any new business? I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Miller, is there a second? Ms. Conover, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Tight enough for everyone. Comfy. Feel like family here.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, maybe.
Me, was it?
We're sharing, right?
Yeah. But there's no public comment.
Ready?
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Education Committee of the Whole for the Board of Directors of the School District of the City of Allentown for today, April 7, 2022. The board welcomes and invites public comments. You may address the board on agenda items and/or non-agenda items. The first opportunity for comments is at the beginning of the meeting and is limited to agenda items only. If you choose to address the board, please fill out the comment card and hand it to Deputy Superintendent Ramos. Comment cards are located on the podium near the door. Once recognized, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and kindly limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Dr. Stanford, do you have any remarks at this time?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. During my comments tonight, I want to provide the board, our ASD family, and the community a brief highlight of the entry plan report of my work over the first 90 days of my superintendency. I started reviewing and organizing my notes and reflections at the start of March, and am working on the final draft with the administrative team. I am working to have the final report ready for review at the end of the month and for the partnership summit. But before I get into the presentation, I want to take a brief moment to thank you, Board of Directors, the administrative team, and the entire ASD family in this community for a wonderful, wonderful experience in my first few months as superintendent, especially the students. They have all welcomed me with warm hugs, warm smiles, and warm expressions of support. You have been supportive. You have also challenged me in these first few months. And most importantly, you have welcomed me into the ASD family. So thank you. So let's get into the presentation. Slide 1, please. In tonight's presentation, I will review quickly the entry plan phases, the entry plan process, lessons learned, our needs based on the lessons learned, my aspirational leadership vision for ASD, and the identified ASD priorities. And then finally, we'll conclude with a summary of the ASD Blueprint for Success plan for the next 3 years. As you may recall, there were 3 phases to the entry plan process. There was pre-entry, entry, and post-entry. During the pre-entry and entry phases, I engaged in activities in the 7 categories you see on the slide right now: document review, board relations, district engagement, community engagement, and systems review. I am now engaged in the 6th and 7th categories on the slide. I am working with the team to finalize my analysis of the pre-entry and entry work to develop a strategic plan and design process, which I am calling the ASD Blueprint for Success plan. I am calling it a blueprint because we are not going through a traditional strategic plan process at this time due to the sense of urgency and the work that we have to get done at this time. We must, however, have a plan to be our North Star until we are able to engage in a full-fledged strategic planning process. To develop the priorities and strategies of the Blueprint plan, I am building upon the district's strategic framework and adding new items based on my analysis and reflections of my listen, learn, and observe phase. An important part of this process was to identify the district's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats from my conversations and my review of the documents and my review of the systems in the district. Although this is not a complete list, I just wanted to highlight a couple of items in each area. So when we look at strengths, commitment, dedication, and loyalty from stakeholder groups and the ASD family is definitely a strength. The pandemic response by our team is a strength of the district. When I look at the potential weaknesses, of course, academic performance is something that we all know is a challenge that we have to continue to work on. Culture and climate, and the structural budget deficit that Solicitor Sultanic kind of reviewed earlier in his remarks. What are the opportunities? Strategic planning in key areas will definitely produce results because we have already established a foundation with the work that we have done in the district. And of course, staff training. We have to continuously focus on making sure that our team members are fully prepared to engage our students and to achieve success with our students. What are the potential threats? Decreasing, flat, or slow growth state budgets is absolutely a threat to us. Again, going back to the comments made by Solicitor Sultanic really emphasizes that point. National teacher shortages. Right now, the Department of Education stated in an article a couple of weeks ago that the award of teacher certifications in the state of Pennsylvania is down 66%. And in my conversations and meetings with College of Educations here locally, they have seen a decrease in the number of students even applying to be in a College of Education to go to earn a degree to be a teacher. So we have a serious issue that we're confronting, that we're going to have to work not only within our collective team here in Allentown School District, but we're going to have to work with the community members and also work with our higher ed institutions to address this problem with the Department of Education. And then last but not least, charter school enrollment. Again, Solicitor Sultanic has already talked extensively about that, and I'm not going to spend any more time on it, but just to say that, you know, we do have to address that as well. So when we look at the lessons learned from this analysis of our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, there are about 10 lessons learned that I'd like to share with you tonight. We must have a laser-like focus and relentless pursuit of academic improvement and academic excellence in Allentown School District moving forward. We must have a laser-like focus and a relentless pursuit of equitable outcomes and equitable systems in this district. Student engagement. We must engage our students in the learning process, and we must prepare them and work with them to take ownership of their learning process. Family engagement. We have to come up with creative strategies and creative ways, and we know that families are busy. We know that our families have multiple responsibilities, but we have to work with them and figure out a way that will empower them to empower their child to be successful in the Allentown School District. Community engagement. One of the strengths that's not listed is that this community has been steadfast in its support and in its belief that Allentown School District is doing good things with the students in our district. And so we want to build on that foundation and find even more creative ways to engage our community, but making sure that our community knows what our priorities are. And when they come to volunteer and when they come to partner with us, that they align their priorities and their missions to the mission of Allentown School District and the priorities of Allentown School District. We must build organizational capacity. Celeste Sultanic again talked about recruitment and retention of our team members is absolutely critically important. It does us no good to recruit someone to work in the school district and then we train them over a 3 or 4 or 5 year period, and then they leave us and go use that talent that they acquired here with another school district. We must build our organizational culture to honor, respect, and love not only our students, but each other in this organization. I say it all the time. We are either going to swim together or we're going to sink together. And so we have to build the culture based on relationships and positive relationships and based on a positive attitude about our work so that we can do this work and make the impact on our students. And that again happens through the type of culture that is created in the organization. And that culture must also be built on making sure that we are creating equitable systems and equitable outcomes for our team members and for our students. We must continue our efforts to review the data and have the data guide us and inform us as we continue to plan strategically, implement those strategies, and monitor whether or not those strategies are working. We must have fiscal stability in this district going forward. We have to find a way to achieve that. And then last but not least, we as an administrative team have to support this board and their responsibility to govern and oversee this entire district on behalf of the community. When we look at these ASD needs and using the district's strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, and comparing that information to models of effective organizations, I believe the district's needs can be grouped into the following 6 categories: leadership capacity, service capacity, management and operations capacity, student engagement capacity, family engagement capacity, and community engagement capacity. I truly do believe that if we build our capacity in these areas, we will make the difference in the lives of our students, in the lives of our team members in the classroom, and we will be able to support the academic success of our students for lifelong success. So when you have that type of analysis, this has been asked of me from day one. What is your vision for the Allentown School District? Well, here it is. My vision for the Allentown School District is that we will inspire and empower our students to achieve greatness by achieving a pre-K through 12th grade system, STEAM, college, career, and community-ready pathway system in our district at all of our schools. And the priorities that are identified through this analysis that I'm working with currently with our administrative team. Priority 1, accelerate the academic performance of all students. Priority 2, improving the culture, climate, and equity district-wide. Priority 3, expect and achieve high-quality organizational governance, leadership, effectiveness, efficiency, transparency, and accountability in all that we do. And then last but not least, achieve financial stability and sustainability in order to improve academic and organizational outcomes. Our team will continue to work on these priorities to develop specific strategies. And we will work to build also metrics, performance metrics, and benchmarks around these priorities and those strategies so that we will know whether we're being effective or not with our strategies. As we all know, the most recent 5-year strategic framework was developed in 2016 and expired in 2021. Although it is time to create a new 5-year strategic plan, there is just too much change going on right now and a sense of urgency for us to address instead of engaging in a several month long strategic planning process. And I believe that the framework has a good foundation for us to continue to work right now. So we will work to pull these metrics and benchmarks together as an administrative team, and that the work plan, which I'm referring to as the ASD Blueprint for Success, will guide and drive the administration's efforts to address our priorities and student needs over the next 3 years. And so when we look at the Blueprint for Success process, from now, and you really can't see it, and I apologize for that, the lettering is white on that background. But from now until July 31st, 2022, the district will engage with the facilitator to create the final stages of that Blueprint for Success plan that I've just referred to, and specifically the specific strategies, the benchmarks, and the performance metrics. When this with the goal of presenting that plan to our building leaders and our team members district-wide in the month of August. Then for the school year, in year 1, which would be fiscal year 22 and 23, we will implement the Blueprint for Success plan. For year 2, fiscal year 2023, fiscal year 2024, we will engage an independent facilitator to plan and develop a new 5-year strategic plan through the engagement with our community. And then for that 3rd year of the Blueprint for Success plan, which will be fiscal year 24 through 25, the administration will refine and complete the 5-year strategic plan that will be launched in fiscal year 2025, fiscal year 2026, through fiscal year 2029, 2030. Wow, that just seems so far off. But it's right around the corner, believe it or not, it's right around the corner. And so Board of Directors and those in attendance tonight, that is just a high-level overview of the work that has occurred over the first 90 days. It is also a quick overview of where we are headed in the next 3 years to 8 years with the development of the Blueprint for Success and a new strategic plan down the road. And at that, thank you for your time, Madam Chairwoman and Board of Directors.
Dr. Stanford, I want to thank you for that presentation. And I'm sure my colleagues would agree with me because we've come a long way. At this time, we'll be taking public comments on agenda items only. Do we have any?
No.
Oh, we don't have any. Okay, so we go to the next thing. So at this time, I would like to call Brandy Sawyer. She'll be presenting on a discussion and action item, Code HS Cybersecurity Certification course.
Absolutely.
And that you have more than one
I have 2.
item. So if my colleagues agree, can we take both instead of? We have 2 items that are action. The other one is Dreambox Learning,
Yep.
elementary renewal. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for having me tonight. I'm here to request the board's approval to pilot and the addition of the cybersecurity certification course to the program of studies. The cost is $7,800 and the teacher professional development is $4,350. A couple comments I'd like to make on this specifically. Cybersecurity experts help protect people's transactions, assets, and health records. Currently, there's a shortage of 2.96 million cybersecurity professionals worldwide. The Bureau of Labor Statistics also adds that by 2026, there will be a 28% increase in the number of jobs necessary in this field. This course will help prepare students with crucial skills to be responsible citizens in a digital future. It's designed for beginner computer science students with no specific prerequisites. Students will learn foundational cybersecurity topics, including digital citizenship, cyber hygiene, the basics of cryptography, software security, networking fundamentals, and basic system administration. Students will also earn a certification if they choose to take the certification test at the end of the course, which aligns to the new PA graduation requirement set forth by Act 158. We're piloting this with one class at each building with up to 120 students with the impression to move forward in the following year with it as a full course in the program of studies. The second one I have for tonight is Dreambox Learning Elementary Renewal. We're requesting the board's approval to renew Dreambox Learning for elementary schools. They use it in Tier 1 and Tier 2 instructional for support in mathematics. The cost is the same as it was the last 2 years at $112 for all elementary schools and all elementary students, and $12,000 for professional development for all the teachers. That includes the Dreambox University as well. This is a personalized online math program that engages students in math performance, providing them with the skills they need to fill in the achievement gap. Any questions?
It's not a question. It's a comment. I'm not sure this is the right time to.
We're gonna hold comments. We're gonna take the motion first, and then we'll open up.
Okay.
Okay. May I have a motion to move Code HS Cybersecurity Certification Course and item number 2, Dreambox Learning Elementary Renewal to the regular board meeting on Thursday, April 28th, 2022?
So move.
May I have a second? Second. Any discussion?
Dreambox. I'm going to put my parent hat on now at this point because I'm less than thrilled with it. It's difficult. My main concern with Dreambox is that when students are getting things wrong, it sets them back to where they last got something correct, I believe, which is good. But my thing is, they have to get it wrong 15 times. It becomes very frustrating to these kids, extremely frustrating. And then I think teachers have to go in and change some settings, but it's very discouraging because then they think they're not smart. They think they can't do it. So that's just something that I had to put out there about Dreambox.
Thank you, Mrs. Ortiz. Is there any further discussion? Did you want to respond to that, or are you fine?
It's a personalized math program. And to your point, as students are working through the system, you do have to get it wrong a few times. They ask you a few questions. I'd have to look into like if there's a specific case, but it's meant to level set a student back to where they need to fill in those gaps. And it works on all standards. Not at the same time, but if you're working in geometry, you might have a geometry standard at a first grade level, but you're also working towards a geometry standard in second and third grade because they're vertically aligned. The system is vertically aligned to do that. So it might try to level you up. And then as you are getting things wrong, it brings you back to where it's finding that specific skill that you don't have. And that's the purpose of the system. It's to fill in those gaps with those skills. Currently, we have 90% of the students across the district in elementary logging in for 3 to 5 lessons a week. And if they're completing 3 to 5 lessons a week and progressing, we're seeing students growing progressing through the system at a half a year to a year's worth of growth every year.
Thank you, Mrs. Sawyer.
Is there any numbers on like how long it takes to calibrate per student?
No, because it depends on the student's grade level. And so a student in third, fourth, and fifth grade, especially fifth grade, will take a little bit longer to get through a lesson, where students in kindergarten, first and second grade, the lessons go a little bit quicker. Not that they're easier, but they go a little bit quicker to move them through, because in kindergarten, first and second grade, there may only be 10 standards that they need to master. But as they move up to third, fourth, and fifth grade, you're moving into 30 to 40 standards that they have to master. So it's a very standards-based system. So you work through the standards as you master them, you get the check mark, you move up, right? And you keep going until you reach either on grade level and or advancing.
Thank you, Mrs. Sawyer.
You're
Is there any
welcome.
further discussion? All in favor of moving these two items, which is Code H Cybersecurity Certification Course and Dreambox Learning Elementary Renewal, forward to our next regular board meeting that's going to be held on April 28th, 2022. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposes? This item moves forward to our April 28th.
Thank you.
regular board meeting. Thank you very much, Mrs. Sawyer. We're going to go on to our next item, is Tiffany Polek. This is also an action item, and it's Valley Youth House School-Based Mental Health Services.
Good evening. I would like to request the board's approval of the agreement between the Allentown School District and Valley Youth House to provide on-site school-based mental health services for students in the 2022-2023 school year. This agreement will allow the district to work together with Valley Youth House to provide school-based mental health services. These services were identified as an ESSER allowable use, in addition to being a recommendation of the Safety Task Force to increase mental health services. Valley Youth House will employ 13 on-site school-based therapists to provide individual, group, and family counseling during the school day. The frequency and duration of sessions will be determined based on the individual needs of the student and with consideration to their academic schedule. In addition, therapists will support the district and individual schools with the development and implementation of mental health promotion and prevention strategies. This agreement aligns with our ASD Strategic Area 1 to cultivate a culture in which students feel safe, valued, and nurtured, in addition to increasing wraparound services. The partnership will ensure that students who are uninsured and underinsured will receive necessary services to be successful. The goal of this partnership is to improve students' overall mental health, to strengthen students' school functioning, achievement, and peer relations, and to increase problem solving, coping skills, and social and interpersonal skills. The cost is $1,195,575. Tonight, we have two staff members from Valley Youth House here with us, Kathy Crablin, the Director of Grants, and Ashley Dallas, their Associate Director of Prevention, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Polak. May I have a motion to move this agenda item forward to our regular board meeting for Thursday, April 28th, 2022?
Motion. Well, a second then.
Okay, there's a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I have discussion. I am so excited about this opportunity. Mental health for our students is very essential to their growth and development. So I'm happy that we've taken the time to invest in them. And I'm just excited to see what becomes of this. So thank you.
So am I.
Thank you. All in favor of moving this? You have discussion? You want to discuss something as well?
How would I guess I would have to ask, how would this work? Would there be like a rotation? Like, how's it?
So we currently have services in our high schools, middle schools, and 6 of our elementary schools. And so we would start with the other 9 elementary schools who have no services currently in school. And then depending on the students in need in the other buildings, we would share services. So therapists would have more than one building.
Is there like a cap on how many students they can see per day? Or?
It's 6 students per day, about 6 sessions per day for therapists.
And sorry, how would students go about registering to see one of them?
So students could be identified through our student assistance program, so through our SAP teams, but also parents could put in a referral for students to receive services.
Are there any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Hearing and seeing none, may I have I had the motion. All in favor in moving this forward to our next regular board meeting of April 28th, 2022? Please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposes? Hearing and seeing none, this definitely moves forward to our next regular board meeting of the 28th of April, 2022. Thank you very much. Our next item on our agenda will be Ms. Jen Bryant. And there's also three items, actually. If we can take all three of those items together, anybody opposed on that? And can I also make a recommendation? If you could just give us, you don't have to read everything because everybody has this packet. And if there's questions, the floor is there, all right?
Certainly.
Thank you very much.
So good evening. The three items that I'm presenting tonight are to continue on our promises out of our summer board presentation last month to you. So these three items are some of the things that we sort of alluded to in that presentation of upcoming programming that we wanted to bring forward. The first is, again, partnering with Valley Youth House to bring you LGBTQ+ summer camp, which is what you would think of for a summer camp experience for LGBTQ+ students. But in addition to that, full immersion in nature and that therapeutic setting that is also provided by the master's level clinicians that they have on site. To provide this program, we would need to be able to sign up a minimum participation of 25 students at a maximum of 50 students to sign up at a cost not to exceed $60,000.
Thank you. Our next item, you can just keep going.
Sure.
95%.
I didn't know if there were any
phonics
specific questions on that
Summer
one.
booster. So let me just name the three items. So the first item you just went over was the Valley Youth House LGBTQ camp, right?
Mhm, correct.
This is the second item, which is 95% phonics summer booster. And then the third item you will be going over is Zern Math for summer and extended day.
Correct.
Thank you.
95% phonics group summer booster is for our current kinder, first and second grades. It will hone in on 25 lessons, which matches our duration of our summer programming to give students that boost that they need to help be successful in the upcoming grade level. It's explicit, systematic, and it is sequential phonics instruction. The price on this is $46,739. And then the third item is called Zern Math. And in addition, Zern's on-demand professional development for teachers. So Zern Math is for K-5 students in our summer program. It is also something that we can wrap around into the upcoming school year to use in after-school tutoring sessions for our students. With Zern Math, that it is more of an instructional-based delivery model. I know you just heard Dreambox presented. That's part of our Tier 1 classroom. This would be specifically for summer. They have set modules of study per grade level that closely align to the standard deficit areas we brought to you last month. The on-demand PD will be available during the summer and throughout the school year for all teachers to help them hone in on their practice for upcoming units that they may find challenging as well. They do not have to use Zern, but they can take advantage of the PD. The cost on this item is $2,500 per site license, $35,000 for Zern product, and an additional $35,000 for the PD.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bryant. So at this time, I'm going to ask for a motion to move two of the three items. One being Valley Youth House LGBTQ camp and the 95% phonics summer booster item forward to our next regular board meeting. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Thank you, Mrs. Ortiz. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? You guys move too fast for me. Is there any discussion on this item, Mrs. Ortiz? And you can have discussion about any of the three, but one item was a discussion item. The other two were action items. Just for
Okay,
clarity.
No, all three. All for your action.
Okay, so they're, all right, thank you. So
Okay.
they all are, clarity, they are all action items. So thank you very much. Your question?
The Zaren math, is that going to be like, how are they going to know where to place these kids or what level to place them at? Are they going to go by based on dream boxes levels, or how are they
Oh,
going to
it will
know?
be separate for summer, for students who are in summer. They will log in. It is a program kind of like 95% how I described how that hones in on the skills you really need. Same thing, Zern for summer is honing in on those big idea core skills that as you're leaving one grade level and going into another, you really need to capture. So that is set. And the way Zern does their sort of intervention or remediation is on the more popular approach to learning loss now, that is through acceleration. So we're not bringing you all the way down, down, down. We're still trying to keep you as close to the grade level content as possible so that you are not missing key skills. It does scaffold, but keeps that student very close. And it is like sort of online tutoring, very visual, and moves students through working in a very concrete model to that more abstract model, and walks them through those steps.
So what about kids that are like behind? So you're like, if they're in third grade, okay, and they're going into fourth grade, but they're learning at a very early third grade level still. You're just going to give them fourth grade work on this Zern math program?
So it will go in if they do need to have and revisit concepts from earlier grade levels within the standards. It will go in and deliver that piece that they may be missing. And that will go all the way back down. If you're a fourth grader, but the concept you're missing is something within K, it will take you back down to there and sort of build you up with lessons. And let's review this. Do you remember this? Let's review this.
So there's like placement tests. Almost.
A little bit, sure. Like sort of like Brandy describes, like if you're struggling, if you get it wrong, it will help come in and give you that lesson. But it isn't just that. There are lessons within that a teacher can then also deliver one-on-one or small group. So we can have a blended model of instruction using it as a support tool. So it doesn't have to be the only interface, but it is for students who need more guided practice. It really helps provide that guide because of the video tutorial and pictorial tutorial.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bryan. Is there any other discussion needed here? I'd like to move this forward to, all in favor? It's all in favor, say aye.
Just sorry, we're sharing a mic over here, so it's like. we
We
gotta-
all are.
Sorry.
So you have a question?
Yeah, just real
Okay.
quick, what made us pick these two programs?
95% as we reviewed, looking for things that could be very specific to our summer window. So there are a whole lot of products out there. There are not a whole lot of products tailored just to the window that we can deliver within summer school timeframe successfully. So that would leave it up to a lot of picking and choosing of what we cover, but this has like honed in. So we several of us reviewed, met with the vendors. We had some principals sit in on Zern presentation as well. And it is something for the summer to try. And as we monitor results, we'll see if this gives us the impact we want in making decisions moving forward.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? All in favor in moving this forward to our next regular board meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposes? Hearing and seeing none. This moves forward to our next board meeting of regular board meeting of April 28th, 2022. Mr. Sickett. You have one item, alert seat.
I do.
This
Good
is an
morning. Good
action and
afternoon.
discussion item.
I'm sorry, say that again?
This is an action item.
Yes, it is.
Yes, thank you.
We're requesting the board approval to purchase alternative seating for our elementary autistic support classrooms. This will affect approximately 240 students. Alert seat is an alternative therapeutic seat that allows students to engage in movement while remaining focused on learning. The seat also provides stimulation and energy absorbing alternative to the typical wooden hard seat. This type of seating stimulates students' sense of touch, which can help the students stay focused and process information. It provides core strengthening through non-disruptive movement and improves time on task, particularly for our easily distracted students. The cost of this is $31,193.80.
Thank you. May I have a motion to move alternative seating to our next regular board meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. May I have a second? Second by Mrs. Ortiz. Thank you very much. Is there discussion on this?
Yes, just a brief comment. Having worked in the past with autistic children and having relation to someone with autism, sensory is something that is high on an autistic scale. I think it's great that you guys have taken the time to notice that and to invest in our students on that. I just want to encourage people that disagree with this. I think they should take the time to research and understand the importance of this device for our students, because it's really important.
I appreciate
So
that.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor of this moving forward to our next regular board meeting of April 28th, 2022, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposes? Hearing and seeing none, this moves forward to our next regular board meeting of April 28th, 2022. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Ramona Holly Major to come forth. She has 3 action and discussion items.
Good evening. I have 3 items to present for this evening for the summer enrichment program. The first one, request board approval for art instruction services for the 2022 Summer Scholars Program for elementary students. The cost of services is $27,900. This
Keep going.
Okay, the second item is request board's approval for dance instruction services for the 2022 Summer Scholars Program. For elementary students, the cost of the services is $26,400. And the third request, request board's approval for coding and digital music instruction services for the 2022 Summer Scholars Program. The cost for services is $37,200 for elementary students and $11,040 for the middle school students. The total cost is $48,240.
Thank you, Dr. Holly Major. At this time, may I have a motion to move
So moved.
three summer enrichment programs, one being art, one being dance, and one being coding and digital music instruction services?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. May I have a second, Mrs. Wilt? Is there any discussion? Mrs. Wilt?
I just wanted to acknowledge along the lines as Ms. Brown with regard to the last action item. I think that summer enrichment, art, dance are so vital. The side of the brain that our kids don't often get to use in our current educational system. Something that, as it went away in 2009 when my kids were little, it hurt my heart. So it's great to see that we're doing what we can to give them that opportunity to explore that and to use the side of their brain that will actually stimulate them when they get back into the classroom for the fall. So, and with regard to the coding and digital, it just kind of is a foundational push to the presentation that Ms. Sawyer gave in the beginning with the potential certification. So I want to thank you all for that and the mindfulness around the holistic child.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilt. Is there any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none. May I have all in favor of this moving on to the next regular board meeting of April 28th, 2022, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposes? Hearing and seeing none, this definitely moves forward to our next regular board meeting of April 28th, 2022.
Thank you.
Next, last but definitely not least, I will ask that Mrs. Ramos present a discussion item. This is not an action item, right?
That's correct, Ms. Conover. This is a discussion item, and I'm just going to call the executive team forward. I believe, Mr. Lysick, that would be you to kick this off. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. How's everybody? Good to see you. I sit as a board chair. I understand the commitment level it takes to sit on a board, so I commend and respect you for the hard work you're doing, Dr. Stanford. I do wish you the best and the cabinet the best, of course. I am Robert Lysick. I'm a CEO and one of the founders of Executive Education Academy Charter School. First, I just want to acknowledge some of my team members that are here through an introduction. So I have Marie McConnell, who's our general counsel, Barry Doble, who's our board president, John Tuasto, who's our admissions director, Steve Flavel, who's also a founder and our chief operations officer, Jennifer Mann, who's also a founder and a big time support mechanism for our school, Matthew Wiltrot, who is our chief school director over high school. So thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate the support. I thought it was important to acknowledge them. I'm going to use reading glasses for the first time in my life. So you're lucky. We'll see how that goes. I've truly realized I'm having trouble with my eyes. So I've had to work with these glasses. So bear with me, please. I want to start out by providing a refresher to some members, and it'll be new information to others as I do my best to explain who we are and why we are here in front of this board tonight. Before, though, I will share this. I think it's real important to point out that we believe there's only two people that sit in this room present day with the Allentown School District that were present 2014 when our charter was renewed. That's important because we've seen a lot of names and a lot of faces that have changed on this board with general counsel, with cabinet members over the last 8 years, which has posed us and I think the district a problem with consistency and made discussions and decisions difficult with the district and with executive. Our school executive is a K-12 charter school, and 8 years ago we petitioned the ASD. We won our charter school with a 9-0 vote in this room. Very exciting time for us. We were the only charter school that year that was approved in the state by an elected school board. We have based our charter school model on innovation, business, high quality, strong school culture, and community engagement. I'm presenting this evening in support of families in this community and on behalf of believers of school choice and public education. The families on our wait list deserve this from me and you, and we all must keep pushing to support them. Many of these families wanted to be here tonight, but I told them to stand down for now. I'm here to talk specifically about the ASD student enrollment cap that executive is currently subject to. I think everyone is aware of it, but we are only permitted to enroll 910 ASD students at executive. The cap was a requirement imposed on us at the inception of our charter by the ASD. The reason for this number is that at the 2014 awarding and negotiations, the ASD gave us no choice but to agree to the cap because of the lack of leverage by executive at the time. So moving forward, and 3 years ago, we then renegotiated our charter renewal, which passed. The ASD agreed to language that required annual serious negotiations with us in good faith to increase the cap imposed on us. The last couple of years, though, the ASD's version of serious negotiations was to string us along over 6 months and then suggest a change to the cap that would result in no additional students. The good faith negotiations worked only one way, and we compromised a lot and lost growth opportunities by trusting the past ASD administration. We currently have a large wait list that grows every day. Excuse me. We don't advertise and we don't market openings, and it's all word of mouth. The ASD enrollment cap has been a major barrier, and it's the ASD telling students and parents that they don't have a choice. The ASD has said in the past that it can't afford to allow more students to transfer to executive. The answer does not work for our waitlist families who are anxiously awaiting a phone call from executive that their child has been selected to attend our school. Last year, we asked the ASD to remove the cap entirely from executive. This did not happen. So this February in negotiations with ASD, we proposed something different, and we are now asking for an additional 50 students every year for the next 7 years. We feel this is reasonable, fair, and a doable request. In today's world, selecting a child's school should be left up to the parent to make the best choice for the child. If the parents want their child to remain in the ASD, that's great. I support it. But if they want their child to come to executive, they shouldn't be blocked. In closing, I'd like to ask the ASD, when will executive get an answer to our proposal? And I would like to thank you all again. And if you have any questions, I'll gladly answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Lysick. Are there any questions?
No, but I just wanted to say thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That'll be all.
Thank you.
At this time, are there any comments from the public on non-agenda items? No? And is there any old business? Is there any new business? Any grass catchers? At this time, I'd like to request a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mrs. Brown, seconded by Mrs. Wilt. The education portion of this meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you.
No, we don't move.
Okay, good. Perfect.
All right, I'd like to call to order the building committee of the whole for the board of directors for the school district of the city of Allentown for today, April 7th. Board welcomes public comment. Please give in your your comment cards to the board secretary. Dr. Stanford, any comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I do not have any comments. Thank you.
Okay, any public comments on agenda items? No comments. At this time, I'll pass over to Mr. Smith for our 2 agenda items, and if there's no objection, we will take both items and vote on at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Good evening, everybody. And forgive me, I seem to have misplaced my voice tonight, but I'll try to get through this here. Tonight, I'm requesting board approval to award the bid for the elevator maintenance services to Otis Elevator Company, 7355 William Avenue, Suite 300, Allentown, PA 18106. This is for a 3-year period for the amount of $87,840 with an option to extend the contract period by 2 years or 2 additional years rather for $58,560. 2 bids were submitted. Otis Elevator Company was the lowest responsible bidder. The agreements, insurance, and bond provisions have been reviewed and approved by our district solicitor and our insurance advisors.
Any questions on this agenda item? Seeing none.
Additionally, tonight, I'm requesting board approval to award the bid for William Allen High School parking garage structural repairs. And this is phase 2 of those repairs. Excuse me, to Jones Masonry and Restoration Corporation, 6740 Allentown Boulevard, number 6, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 17112, for the amount of $291,000. 3 bids were submitted. Jones Masonry and Restoration Corporation was the lowest responsible bidder. The agreements, insurance, and bond provisions have been reviewed and approved by our district solicitor and our insurance advisors. And this work is scheduled to begin this summer and of course upon board approval.
Any questions on the Allen parking garage agenda item? I'll entertain a motion to move both items to the regular board meeting. Ms. Ortiz, second by Mrs. Wilt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, both items move forward. Any public comment on non-agenda items? Okay. Any old business? Any new business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting's adjourned.
I'm going to call the Finance Committee of the whole meeting to order. The board welcomes and invites public comments. Do we have any on agenda items first? Okay. We have one item tonight, but it's a major item, of course. This is our first look at possible budget for next year. Mr. Stock, I can't say it. Carrie,
Casey.
we just.
Mr. Casey.
Mr. Casey. I will learn. Hey. Are you ready?
Yeah, Miss Matheson, yes, we're ready. As you just stated, tonight we're bringing forward our proposed budget. And we just want to make sure it's very clear that this is proposed. It's not the first time that we're going to come forward with the budget. It won't be the final time we're coming forward. But I do want to share that bringing this proposal forward this evening in April is sooner than we've done that in quite some time. And I just want to comment that a lot of that is due to the skill and hard work of Mr. Ristakasian, our CFO. So have to commend him for everything that he's accomplishing in the finance department. So with that, we've chunked the presentation into 5 primary areas. You can go to the next slide, Jose. We'll take a quick walk through the Act 1 timeline like we do every year, so you can get some understanding of why we come through so many times. We'll take a walk through the budget process and the summary, but we'll spend the majority of our time working through the revenue assumptions as well as the expense assumptions. So the Act 1 timeline is the legislation by which we must approve our budget. So by June 30th, we have to have a final budget approved by the school board of directors. That begins with the process here this evening, which is proposing to you a proposed budget that we're going to ask you to move forward to the end of the month, April. From there, we begin to formulate the final budget, which goes on to what's referred to as the PDE form 2028. And we start to put the final budget on display. That needs to be on display for, is it 30 days, Harry?
Yep.
For 30 days, 20 days, sorry. That budget will go on display as we progress into June and come forward to you with that final budget presentation. So again, I just want to reiterate that tonight's the first look is what we're trying to call it, not the last look. And there potentially will be changes in this budget simply by the sheer unknown yet of what the governor is going to formally be able to allocate to the district. We know he's attempting to make significant shifts to us, but we don't know what they're going to look like yet. So tonight's a first look with some of those assumptions that we're hoping do come true. Next slide, please, Jose.
So as Jen said, we're sort of ahead of schedule, but I do want to say we're in the home stretch. We really start the budget process in September, October of last year. And we try to put all the moving pieces together and we get our crystal ball out and we kind of shine it up. And what you're seeing is where we think we're going to land. But even then, there's some assumptions that we're making to really balance the budget. Before we get to those assumptions, I just want to touch base on the sort of major revenue and expense drivers of our budget for those that are new and a refresher for those that have been here for a while. The primary revenue sources are your local revenues. So essentially local revenue, the way I think of it, is things that we can control as a school district. Those are things like property tax rates, the earned income taxes, the per capita taxes. When you think about the state revenue, that's primarily the educational subsidies, your transportation subsidy, state reimbursement of like the PSERS and social security benefits and stuff like that. Federal funding is generally our grant portfolio. It's the smallest part of our revenue budget. For the past couple of years, it's actually been one of the saviors of our budget because of the ESSER funds. But generally speaking, it's the federal grants. You're talking about the title programs primarily. On the expense side of the house, your biggest expense is your salaries and benefits. Followed closely by tuition to charters, LCTI, LTRI-C, the IU, and then you have debt and transportation services. Everything that I just mentioned is primarily driven by some kind of contractual obligation that leaves all others in kind of a small bucket. So you have a very small discretionary balance on that side of the house. We're going to drill into these a little bit as we go through the presentation. So at any time, feel free to stop me. But unless there's questions, I'm just going to go right through it. So like I said, we made some pretty significant assumptions. You know, that crystal ball is shined up, but it's still not accurate. Some of the assumptions we're making on here is related to things that we can control. So on the local revenue side of the house, we're proposing a 5.3% increase in taxes. On the state side of the house, when you talk about state revenue, we're projecting 10% increase in BEF and a 5% increase in special ed funding. That's significantly less than what the governor's proposed, but nonetheless, a pretty big lift for the Allentown School District. All other revenue is considered to be flat at this point in time. On the expense side of the house, we're actually assuming that the AEA contract is ratified. So what you see includes what you all made earlier. We're assuming that the charter school enrollment caps remain unchanged and that there's no new debt issued throughout the year. Again, over the course of this presentation, we're going to go into some greater detail in each of these line items. Keep in mind that we're going to continue to refine them. We're going to continue to revisit them. And as we get closer to the final stage in June, we'll have a much more insight into what those final numbers are, whether it be from the federal side or the state side. I know up there is a very small slide, but generally, we just wanted to give you a sense of the proposed budget, which is about $394 million. That includes a 19 million lift in revenue and expenses versus the prior year, fiscal 22. Again, the key revenue drivers on this are going to be your real estate tax increase, your state BEF and SCF increase. I do want to highlight, while we're going to talk through it, we are using about $10.5 million in ESSER funds to continue to maintain the operations of the LEA. We'll go on to that just a little bit. On the expense side of the house, we're going to talk about increases to salaries set aside to resolve the open contracts. We're going to talk about things that we're going to need to do in order to address our recruitment and retention challenges. So jumping right into revenue. One more slide. Thanks, Jose. Most of the presentation is set out in sort of three parts. On the left-hand side of it, you have the projected year end. As you all know, we don't have the audited financials just yet. This is our best guess on unaudited financials, if you will. So you have the year-end projections. We have the budget for 21-22, and then you have the proposed budget in terms of what we're proposing for a balanced budget. Main change on the local revenue side, again, it's $121 million. That's a 5.3 increase in the real estate taxes. That's right up to the Act 1 index. All the other revenue sources on here remain relatively flat or unchanged. With respect to state revenue, we've kept all of the state revenue funding flat, with the exception of a 10% increase in BEF and 5% increase to the special ed funding. I do want to highlight two items on here, specifically the FICA reimbursement and the state reimbursement of employee benefits. Those are the items that are tied directly to our salary projections. So that will most likely change as we go up and down with our salary projections, but the final numbers are going to be based on your actual salary expenses. So as you think through those lines, know that that's automatic change based on what we're doing with salaries. With the federal revenue side, we've kept everything flat. We do intend to use 10.5 million in ARP ESSER funds to maintain the operations of the LEA. That's the continuity plan. And we will revisit the federal programs as we get closer to the final allocation from the states. You'll see slight shifts in terms of numbers. Those shifts are more or less for accounting purposes to realign the actual expenses and the revenues against our chart of accounts. In this case, it's a fixed on revenues. But relatively speaking, everything is flat with the exception of ESSER funds. This is just another snapshot of looking at our revenue sources. You'll see that 92% of the revenue is from state and local sources. The biggest chunk of that is state, 61%, and the local revenue makes up 31%. So with that, we've kind of built out the revenue side of the house. And if I'm going too fast, stop me, but I've taken Lisa's words into heart in terms of you have the presentation. So if there's questions, let me know. So I'm going to pause to see if there's any questions about the revenue and some of the assumptions that we made. Nope. Okay. Next slide, please, Jose. So jumping into the expense side of the budget, you'll see the biggest jump in terms of salary and employee benefits. Again, a good chunk of that is related to the AEA contract, but we've also set aside funds to really increase the salary expenses to address the open and expiring contracts. We think that's a wise investment in terms of our ability to recruit and retain top talent and address some of the challenges within the district. The remaining line items are directly related to contractual obligations. As I said earlier, it's primarily debt payments, LCTI, LTRICs, and tuition to charter schools.
And to add to that, just to go back to the salary number for a second, just so that everyone's on the same page, we did, like Harry mentioned earlier, allocate regarding the report that you approved tonight, but the facility custodial maintenance contracts expired and needs to be remedied. The security contract is expired and needs to be remedied. And we have 3 contracts expiring at the end of this year. And those are the Act 93 group, the clerical group, and the food service group. So again, we're coming to you in a preliminary proposed way because we're optimistic that now that the teachers have settled, we'll be able to bring forward some contracts that address a lot of the issues we discussed with salary this evening relative to the AEA, because that does apply to other groups in the district. So we just want to point that out because this is a bit of a moving target as we look to close contracts.
Yeah, and when you start looking at the picture of positions and our recruitment, next slide, Jose. You can see that the district has existing 2,410 positions. At the same time, we have just about 400 vacancies. So this budget that you see essentially assumes that all existing positions remain flat. Extra pay, extra duty is flat. Employees on income protection will return to work. But the main assumption is we want to be able to address those 400 vacancies. So we are setting aside funds to close out those contracts. We are setting aside funds to really work on the proposed org charts and increase efficiencies within the district. Our assumption is that the number of vacancies will start to go down as we start addressing those open contracts. One thing that I do want to mention is it's not a major change, but the PSERS rate is also increasing, so I don't want to lose track of that. So statewide obligations will also increase. In terms of the healthcare, this actually is, at least in my view, one of the more challenging pieces of the budget to come up with because there's so many moving parts to it. So on the one side, the existing plan, we're projecting a 5% increase in our premiums. On the other side, we're projecting savings because of the change in the PPO plan from the AEA. So while there's some savings, and as we move other contracts that into these plans or potentially a similar type of plan, this number is very hard to come up with. So we will see some savings in terms of the overall projected budget to the tune of about 1.3 million. But we're also budgeting an additional 2.1 million, essentially twice what we budgeted for last year to address some of the vacancies that we have in the district. So almost 400 vacancies. This budget includes 200 vacancies. So there's 200 positions that may or may not end up affecting the budget. The dental and vision expenses are remaining flat. They're actually a pretty small part of the expense. This is a relatively busy slide. We've started tracking enrollment a little bit differently in the past 2 years. The real intent of this is just to show you the sort of history, the fluctuations, if you will, at different points in time, but more so to focus the shift that's happening, at least in this period. So while you see a decline of 87 students in the gen ed program from brick and mortar, you almost see that exact opposite shift into the cyber program. So in that period, we've lost 87 in the brick and mortars, but then they've gained right into the cyber school program. During that period, you also have an additional 25 students that rolled into the special ed programs. So all in all, you have an increase of 35 students, but pay attention to the mix because those 25 in the special ed program are a lot more expensive in terms of dollars. If you look at the next slide, I try to capture that in not as busy numbers, but essentially you're looking at a slight shift in the brick and mortars where the trend line is going down. And then the exact opposite is happening in the cyber program. So you are seeing that lift up. When you look at the charter school tuitions, this is a snapshot in time. Our projection for 22-23 is not yet final because we are waiting for PD to approve the final ADM numbers. But you'll see a big jump that happened between 20 and 21 or 2021, between 2021 and 21-22. Our initial calculations show that that rate is going to be somewhat flat. Because it's somewhat flat with our projected enrollment, there is a potential for at least remaining flat on that side of the house. So we're not projecting growth. We're actually projecting a little bit of a decline versus last year. If you look at the next slide, you will see some of the assumptions that we've considered as part of budgeting this out. So on scenario one, we actually forecasted a decreased enrollment, which the trend doesn't really support. We have a flat enrollment that really stays with where we are today, existing, if you will. And then we have a projected enrollment that shows that slight increase that we're seeing, especially with the mix. So if you look at the budget line, at least currently, we're projecting the $64 million expense. That's primarily based on the mix, but that number will change and we'll continue to revisit it as we finalize the ADM and our enrollment counts for this year. One other thing I should say, Jose, you don't have to go back. All of this is based on no cap increases. So when you heard executives say we have 9-10, this assumes that they continue to stay at the 9-10. Any caps that are in place from an enrollment point of view will remain flat in this picture. If those numbers change, then obviously your budget and your actuals will change. On this slide, we just wanted to show you where the real main breakout of the expenses are. About 80% of the budget is really earmarked for salaries, benefits, and charter school expenses. You have a small percentage that's for debt services, and your discretionary income essentially becomes that 7% that's left over. So with that, we've sort of built out our expense side of the house. So you can see how the budget came together. I don't know if you have any questions on the expense front. If not, we can put the whole thing back together, and the next slide will show you the proposed budget as we have it today.
I don't have any questions, but I have a comment. We need to pay because I'm looking around the room, right? Even though I know this is our meeting, but we need to have an understanding of what our expenses are as it relates to, the comments that are always being made as it relates to Allentown School District and what we're doing with money. So I just want folks to pay attention to this, because many of the decisions that are made are based, all of our decisions that are made pretty much are based on what we have. And so we're taking this time out to spell it out. And I just want folks to put a pin in it, because I see folks yawning, but this is a picture of our problem. So I just wanted to make that comment. This is where our expenses lie. So,
Okay.
So this concludes our sort of budget first look. It is an action item. We are recommending that this be considered for approval at the board meeting on April 28th. Just keep in mind that as again, we sort of get these assumptions finalized as we get more actual data from the state and federal. The picture will slightly change, but our main assumptions are the 5.3 increase in the tax increase. We're talking about a 10% increase in BEF, 5% increase in special ed funding, flat funding from the federal title programs, and we do intend to use about $10.5 million of ESSER funds to maintain the operations of the LEA.
May I have a motion to move this item forward? Ms. Wilkes? Mr. Parker? Right. All in favor? Opposed? Then the motion carries and it'll move forward. At this time, are there any public comments on non-agenda items, Mr. Secretary? No? Then, is there any old business to come before this committee? Any new business? And then may I have a motion to adjourn? Right. All in favor? Opposed? Never have heard a motion against adjournment. Thank you.
So when are you gonna hear from custodians? I told him Brad was probably leaving. We don't know who the president is. But